Welcome aboard the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets with Tim McMaster, Zack Rosenblatt, and Marissa Dunn.
Can't wait!
Hey everyone, welcome into another edition of the Can't Wait podcast. Tim McMaster here, along with the Athletics Jets reporter Zack Rosenblatt and our producer Marissa Morris. Revenge week? Is that what we're calling this? I don't know. We have a lot to get to, including the Patriots game, of course, the embarrassing loss a year ago that the Jets handled pretty well this week leading up to the game. We'll talk about the running back situation, how that's going to be handled this week with James Robinson in-house. But we're also going to lead, of course, with Elijah Moore and where we are with that.
I thought you were going to say the
Zack,
Tom Brady divorce is what we were leading with. Sorry.
See, I didn't know when. Here we go.
Sorry.
It's literally in the chat too, like already, like how long?
Over under.
But yeah, so that's the biggest news in the NFL right now, right? So hey, go ahead, Zack. What do you have to say about Tom Brady officially getting divorced while quarterbacking what looks like a bad football team? Also,
he just couldn't take the possibility that the Jets were going to beat his old Patriots team this week. I don't know. I don't really have much to comment on it, but I will say the Buccaneers seem like a mess. Yes. It is kind of sad that his career is going out. It seems like his career is going out in a bad way because he does not seem like the same guy anymore. Like something. I mean,
well, we were talking about it.
Obviously, that was up. Yeah.
We were talking about it before the show started. Like, does he go out like this? Like,
yeah.
Or does he,
I mean, it also can't be ruled. I feel like others have speculated this, but it can't be ruled out that he just decides to retire during the season too. Like, he's been so detached from the team, like going to Robert Kraft's birthday party and stuff. Like, I don't know.
Wedding.
He's going to
Todd Bowles,
to
by the way, maybe not a great head coach.
1 year next year. Right? Yeah, I was going to say we can tie it back to the Jets because of Todd Bowles, and that is interesting because, when Todd Bowles was the Jets head coach, there was a lot of talk that he didn't get a
fair shot or whatever. Yeah.
A fair shot. Yes. And all of that. And then he obviously more experience and he's a successful defensive coordinator. Obviously we all know that he's very good just handling that side of the ball. And I think a lot of people thought that he would be good in take two as a head coach, but not so much so far.
Yeah. And it seems like they're pretty not well prepared even on defense, which is alarming. So, yeah, I mean, he might just be one of those cases of a guy who's better as a coordinator than a overall head coach type guy. Whereas I think you're seeing kind of like the opposite with Saleh. I think Robert Saleh is almost was made for being a head coach, leading a team. He was a really good defensive coordinator, obviously, but I think he was even more made for just being the CEO of an organization kind of thing, like he is.
And he's turned the corner here at the podium. I will say that too, and that'll tie into
surprise.
Oh, no. Really?
I knew that was going to happen.
You don't have a lock on the door? Just for those who are not watching on YouTube, Connor Hughes just peeked his head in behind.
So Connor sent me a text and says, "Are you recording?" I said, "Yes." Open the door. Come in.
I didn't tell him I was doing this. I was going to wait and see when he would figure it out.
I'm shocked that was so short. I thought he would.
I know. Yeah.
Well,
because he couldn't hear anything. Because he can't hear anything because I have headphones on. So.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. So far we're 3 minutes and 48 seconds in, and we've talked about Tom Brady's divorce. Connor's walked in.
Connor's nearby. It's hard to talk about the Jets in the beginning when Connor's near. I should start talking about golf. Should I start talking about golf?
No.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to say about golf.
Off the rails.
All right, let's go. Let's bring it back. We're bringing it back in.
We could mention that Bronny is visiting the University of Maryland this morning.
Get it all.
I was waiting for you to
get it all out there.
Too,
yep.
Bronny will not be a
I have
turd.
I have a Phillies hat on, which I'm surprised people haven't flipped out about yet.
Yes.
What was that one? Oh, your hat?
I have a Phillies hat on, which nobody has gotten mad about yet. So
we can do World Series predictions at the end. Yeah.
All right. Back to the Jets. And you were mentioning Robert Saleh. So I think we tie that in with Elijah Moore. But thank you, Michael Dunn. So football, ... The Elijah Moore situation has been handled, I think, as well as you could possibly handle it. And this is a team that the first few weeks of the season, we did discuss that Robert Saleh was not necessarily doing a good job at the podium. And he had there was the receipts comment, which now is on its way to being brilliant. There was all these different things. We're like, he needs to maybe think about these things a little more before he says it. Now we get to a situation where it's real, right? Like this can go bad. You have to handle this situation right.
Yeah.
And Robert Saleh, Matt LaFleur, everyone that's gotten up to that mic, Zach Wilson, all the players for the most part. There's been a few like kind of hidden comments from some players that we talked about on the last episode. But overall, this has been handled well. Elijah back at practice this week. And what's the first thing the world sees is him out there, dapping, working on handshakes, doing all the stuff that you think a happy teammate would do. The question for you, Zach, is do you think that Elijah Moore is actually a happy teammate?
I mean, he certainly is putting on that. I mean, whether it's performance or real. I mean, I don't know. Like you meant. So it's funny. You mentioned like how Saleh early in the season were like maybe he shouldn't have said that kind of thing. Somebody asked him about his receipts comment the other day, like a reporter from who was here from Boston, and he was like, I would wish that would die. Like he's like he like was hoping nobody would bring it back up again, kind of thing.
And they're gonna keep bringing it up.
Yeah. Well, it was more like I think he realized like he shouldn't have said that kind of thing now. And you can, I don't know, you can kind of tell that there's been a little more. I'm not saying there wasn't thought before he go out there, because I think he would go out there knowing what he would want to say, and he shoots from the hip a lot and stuff like that. But I think the way he's handled Elijah Moore has been impressive. You've seen teammates, after maybe there were some subtle shots in the media last week. It seems like at least the people that have talked publicly, they've all said the right thing. Zach Wilson's like, I've been trying to let him know that I'm there for him. I support him no matter what. You've had other guys in the locker room kind of, welcome him back, because the reality is they need him. So that's a part of it. So, I mean, you're not going to really accomplish anything by alienating him, which we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Maybe there's been arguments, whatever. So they're trying to ingratiate him back in the team. They're trying to get him, I don't think he lacks motivation. I don't think that was ever an issue. It was just a matter of him having touches when they didn't need him to have touches because they won so many games. But we're going to get into this, I'm sure, but Corey Davis is not going to play on Sunday. So that means Elijah Moore really needs a step. I mean, Denzel Mims will play more. Jeff Smith will play. But Elijah Moore is the guy that needs to fill that Corey Davis role to a degree. Him and Garrett Wilson are going to have to take on that role. They need to do better in run blocking, because that's where Corey Davis is at his best. And so, they need Elijah Moore to step up. So I think that's why you've seen them support him so much publicly. They were never going to trade him. Deadline's coming up. I'd be shocked if he was traded unless they got a great. I mean, Kadarius Toney just got traded for a 3rd-round pick, which blew my mind. 2 picks, actually.
Yeah, 2 picks.
And if he's worth that, I think Elijah Moore has proven more in the NFL. He hasn't even really. I mean, he was hurt a little bit last year, but
if they could get that, should they do that?
I don't even think they would do a 3rd and a 5th, but if they could get like a 2nd-round pick, I would do that. I don't know if the Jets want to get rid of him though. So, because you have to, if they're trying to make the playoffs, then you have to replace him. And
I don't know. It's Denzel Mims.
Yeah, very true. Mims time. It's Mims o'clock.
Mims
season. But yeah, so to circle, I just think, he hasn't spoken to the media yet. Today's his last day this week to have a chance to do that. If he doesn't, there's a chance he could be subjected to a fine, which I don't know if he wants to do that. But so I'm curious to see what he says if and when he finally does talk to us. I imagine he won't say much, or it'll be more like going back to towing the company line and focusing on the Patriots and all that stuff. It is, I think it says a lot about where the Jets are as an organization that was a week ago. And it feels like they've already moved on from it in a way, which, there's been drama in past seasons where stuff was just kind of lingered, and, Jamal Adams in the background after his trade request and all that stuff. So I think they've handled it very well. But Sunday, as we talked about when this stuff initially happened, we're going to have to see how he handles it when he makes a mistake, which is inevitable because nobody's perfect. If he drops it, if he misses a block, he's going to get called out for it from the fans. He's going to get booed if he has a drop. Like, how does he handle that and all that stuff is going to be the interesting thing to see.
LaFleur yesterday said all the right things, obviously, even denied that there was any kind of blow up, said there was a conversation. I guess that's semantics at that point, right? Like one person's blow up is another person's conversation. We had that earlier this year with on the sideline.
Yeah, Quentin
Williams, loud conversation. But I wanted to get back to what you said about him not speaking to the media yet, because I wonder, obviously the team's not looking forward to him speaking to the media either, right? Because they're like fingers crossed, like holding their breath,
Well,
like
and
hopefully
when
he
they
gets
want
through
the
this.
story, and they also want the story to die, and it keeps I mean,
Right.
that's why
And
I always say these guys miss the point that they should get it out of the way early, as
Right
opposed to like
away.
letting it linger throughout the week. But yeah, anyway, whatever you're saying, go ahead.
So conspiracy theory, he doesn't speak today.
Mhm.
And they don't let him speak until after the game. And he has a good game. And he if there's a fine, you can cover the player's fine, right? Like, I mean, technically you're not supposed to do that, but right. Like, I don't know. Conspiracy theory. I just feel like,
I mean, that's
from
what
a Jets
if I
standpoint,
was predicting, I think that's what's going to happen is that we're
yeah,
talking for the first time after
he
the game. Yeah.
he catches 3 balls for 40 yards, like whatever. He's on the field, he's playing, he's part of the offense, and then he speaks, and then the questions change, right? Because then the questions, they'll still be the same. I mean, it's the New York media. You guys aren't going to like avoid what's happened for the last 2 weeks.
We have to discuss what happened previously. Yeah.
But you also have to ask him about the game. And that's, you know what I mean? It just changes I feel like it changes the narrative a little bit. So that's my call, is that, and you said you kind of think that'll happen too,
Yeah.
but that he doesn't speak till after the game. Pretty much after the game, it's hard to dodge you guys, right? Is that fair to say?
It is. And then if he dodged us after the game, after dodging us all week, like if he didn't get a fine, then there'd be something wrong with the system. But so I imagine that's what would happen. Like guys certainly do after games dodge. They'll either like wait in the locker room the beginning part when we're talking to Saleh, or they'll get out of there as quick as they can after they shower. I imagine, some of us will be at Saleh. I imagine some reporters are going to do whatever they can to get in the locker room quickly to try and talk to him. So he's not going to be able to escape everybody. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. If he has a good game, you'd think he'd want to talk. If he doesn't, maybe he wouldn't, because he might be upset again. I don't know.
Right.
But
yeah, it could backfire. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and the thing, and it's funny that like this kind of had to be the first topic that we're talking about right now, when there's this legit like huge game for the Jets in the AFC East. Like I saw a stat that I think it's Football Outsider said if they win, their playoff percentages go up to like 75% or something like that. And if they lose, it still is in like the 50s or something like that. So, but that, like, if you have 6 wins before the bye, like if you miss the playoffs at that point, then something bad went wrong in the second half of the season. And, I don't know what the line is at now, but it was Patriots by 1.5 for most of the week, even after that Bears game where the Patriots looked like crap, frankly. So it's going to be very interesting to see, like, what happens if they win and he doesn't get touches again. Like, is he going to complain? Like, I don't know. It's going to be something you have to think of in the back of your mind now with him.
Yeah. And so when it comes to the game itself and when he's in there, obviously Mims played okay last week. The great blocks, didn't do a lot offensively, but nobody did. They didn't throw the ball a whole lot. So what do you think the usage is for Elijah, and where? You said he's, obviously on the outside, probably replacing Corey Davis. But he didn't play last week. So, is it everything's forgiven and he's in there the same amount of plays he would have been if none of this had ever happened? Or do you think there's still like a lag there where the team's like, you know what, we're going to ease you back in here. We're not going to use you a lot this week because they kind of need him.
Yeah. If Corey Davis wasn't hurt, I could see them doing that where they ease him back in. I don't think they really have a choice now. I think they're again going to run a lot of 12 personnel. You're going to see a lot of the tight ends again. You might even see again, the running backs have a little different. You don't have Breece Hall, who's such a threat as a receiver. So like a Robinson and Michael Carter backfield doesn't really scare you as much. Maybe you do like a Ty Johnson and Michael Carter, since Johnson's more of a pass catcher, and I think they trust him more in like protection, not more. I mean, because I think Robinson's pretty good protection, but it's going to be interesting to see like the personnel looks they throw out. I think they really want to do what they've done the last couple of weeks, which is grind this game out, run the ball a lot, not make Zach Wilson get into mistakes, which Bill Belichick tends to scheme up. He struggled a lot under pressure, which we've talked about a bunch, and I think the Patriots are going to throw a lot at him. Matthew Judon is a really talented pass rusher. So yeah, they need Elijah Moore to be there. They need a guy who can be reliable and make some plays down the field, in the middle of the field. Corey Davis, he's not a guy that gets separation, but he was a guy that Zach Wilson had good chemistry with. Elijah Moore hasn't played now since in a couple weeks technically. So, it's not like he's been helping his chemistry with Zach Wilson, certainly. So I think Garrett Wilson winds up getting involved a lot this game, but I think Elijah Moore is really going to have a chance to get targets, and we'll see what he does with them, because this is what he wanted. Like they almost have no choice but to use him this game, I would think, unless they run the ball every play, which who knows. So yeah, it's a lot of eyes are going to be on him. and I'm very curious to see how he handles it. Like we haven't really dealt with something like this because Denzel Mims, after his trade, was inactive for 5 weeks, and then he came out and he did his job last week. Elijah Moore, this just happened a week ago. He demanded a trade and put all the attention on himself, and now he's playing the week after that, and so he's going to have a lot of pressure to perform.
One more thing before we get to the actual Patriots and the game is the running backs. Obviously, James Robinson now is here and ready to go. So when you look at this offense, and there's been comparisons to the 49ers offense a few years ago and the way they had 3 running backs, and now kind of the Jets have that instead of Breece Hall getting the majority of the stuff. How much of a factor is James Robinson this week? How much is he the clear number 2 behind Michael Carter? Is it almost a split? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to me. I think Carter will be the clear number 1 this week, just because short week, learning a new offense. I mean, to some degree, there's some aspects of this offense that aren't like crazy complicated that he should be okay to figure out. It is a different like scheme and all that stuff, but I think he'll play this week. He'll get some carries. I think Ty Johnson will get some looks. I think Michael Carter will lead the snap count, and probably like it was in week 1 kind of thing, where Michael Carter probably played like 60% of the snaps and Breece Hall played like 40. So I think you'll maybe see something like that this week. Going forward, it'll be interesting to see. There was all this stuff about from Doug Peterson about how they didn't play him last week because he had some knee soreness. And when James Robinson spoke to us, he kind of pushed back on that a little bit, and he said he didn't really know why. He thought the communication was bad. He thought his knee soreness is nothing new. It's not like he was on the injury report. So I found that pretty interesting. I don't really know what Doug did that for, because it's not like that helps his trade value if you're saying that. So I don't. It's gonna be interesting to see how. I mean, they wouldn't have brought him in if he didn't pass the physicals and all that stuff. So I think he's gonna have a role on Sunday. I don't think it'll be a huge role, but as the weeks progress, I wouldn't be surprised if like it flipped and he started getting more carries than Michael Carter, even if it's like a 50-50 type situation. I think Robinson's a tough runner who has a tendency to just fall. I mean, so does Michael Carter. That's it. They're kind of similar in that way. They're both tough runners that fall forward. I think Robinson's a solid pass catcher, not like explosive. He's really good in protection, which is going to be helpful. So, yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how they do this. It'll be, I think, to your original question, I think it will be more like the 49ers type of 3-man rotation where the top 2 guys get a lot and the third guy spells them on passing downs kind of thing.
Some stuff came out about Michael Carter this week that I thought was like just cool stuff. Running back coach Taylor Embry's wife had a baby this week, and Michael Carter ran the film sessions, I guess. And then LaFleur talked about him a little bit yesterday as well. And he said, as much as I love this guy as a football player, I love him more as a person. It seems like, for a second-year guy, it seems like he is like above and beyond as far as leadership and just a guy that teammates look to.
Yeah, I asked Robert Saleh about that today, and he just said how important he is to this team. They think he's a great football player, but like I can't think there's been many cases where a non-quarterback in their second year was such a leader for a team like this, especially like a running back who lost a starting job at the beginning of the year. They just traded for a guy, so clearly he's not going to be like the bell cow, and he's still like everybody in the locker room loves him. I think he's friends with everybody in the locker room, and yeah, so Taylor Embry had his kid on Wednesday morning. His wife had the kid. Sorry. I know I phrased that wrong. His wife had the kid Wednesday morning. He still coached practice that day. He's like, I know that sounds crazy, but my wife let me go. But he had to leave after practice to go back to his wife. And so Michael Carter, and I think there's an assistant named Leon Washington, who's a former NFL running back, who like basically ran the film session. Yeah, it just says everything about Carter. I think he's a guy I could see him being here for a long time just because of how much they value him in the organization, and he's an NFL quality running back. And yeah, it says so much about him that despite the fact that he lost touches and he's going to lose some touches with Robinson here, it doesn't really seem to phase him at all.
All right, we need to talk about this Patriots game, what it means, what this team is thinking after how things went against New England last year, and well, every year for the last 6 years, right? Let's get to that, but first, a quick break.
I'm so excited to talk to you about our next sponsor, Liquid Death, because I am just absolutely loving it. You may notice there are these strange tall boys of beer in the bottled water section of your local stores. Well, it's not beer, and it's actually mountain spring water from the Alps, and it's called Liquid Death. Why is the water called Liquid Death? Well, because it will brutally murder your thirst, and their infinitely recyclable tallboy cans are helping to bring death to plastic bottles, which is so awesome. They also donate 10% of the profits from every can sold to help kill plastic pollution. I'm so used to buying bottled water, and when I tried Liquid Death, I was blown away. The water is so good. The sparkling is my favorite. In the afternoon, a cold sparkling water just tastes so good during the workday. They also have 3 different flavored waters, mango, lime, and berry, which are also so great, and I highly recommend you trying them. So if you want to try, go get Liquid Death at your local Whole Foods Market, Target, and Stop & Shop stores, or find a Liquid Death retailer near you with our store locator tool at liquiddeath.com/wait. That's liquiddeath.com/wait.
All right, let's move on to the game Sunday, and it is a big one. It's a 5-2 Jets team against what has become a disappointing Patriots team this season. But there's so much more when it comes down to these two teams. It's Belichick versus the Jets. Jets have lost 12 straight to New England. But to highlight to the exclamation point, I guess, on that streak was last year, 54-13. A game that was 34-13 going into the fourth quarter, and the Patriots piled on 20 more points in that fourth quarter when the thing was over. The Jets didn't stir the pot really this week, but they made it known that they do remember. Jeff Ulbrich said, I remember the score. I remember a lot of things. I remember it being 40 plus and shots still being taken on us. It is what it is. We're looking forward to this one. Zach, I would think behind closed doors, there's been plenty of talk this week about 54-13.
Yeah, it's funny. I think Saleh probably had a message to the guys like, don't give them any bulletin board material, but like Jeff Ulbrich like could not help himself, and I actually just copy and pasted it because he had a great quote where somebody asked him if that game was a low moment last year, and he said that game and the Colts game a couple weeks later where they got killed, and he said there was a level of darkness I know within my own brain and soul. It was definitely trying. Like that's how upset it made him about what happened that game. Like that. So it's clear that it means something to him this game. I think they're talking about it behind closed doors, like you said. Like it's definitely. I think Saleh has used stuff like that as motivation. The stuff before that last division game against the Dolphins, he was all talking about how they lost 12 in a row in the division. The last time they had a better record than the Patriots this late in the season for a matchup was in Tom Brady's first year as a starter in 2001.
Wow.
Just to give you an idea. Yeah. So it's been a lot has changed since then. A lot has changed since that matchup last year. There's definitely some revenge on the mind, even if everybody's doing a good job of not saying that out loud necessarily. They remember what the Patriots did last year. I mean, they were running go routes in the fourth quarter of a game that was already over. And as much as Saleh is doing a good job of not, even bringing that up, really, I think they all are talking about it. They know that they know they have a more talented team than the Patriots, which is pretty rare. You hope that they're almost not like focusing too much on that because, the Patriots are still well coached. They still have Belichick, who is going to throw a lot at Zach Wilson. And I'm curious to see how they come out. As we've talked about, they're very good in the fourth quarter. I think they struggle a little too much in the first 3 quarters. The energy is going to be as good as it's been at MetLife for a Jets game in a long time, I imagine, on Sunday. Saleh was saying that they're doing like fireworks an hour before kickoff. I think they want to get everybody in the stands at the very beginning because he said something like 30% of the fans missed the Sauce Gardner play when he blitzed and forced a safety against the Dolphins, and he doesn't want that happening again. So like their message is like get in early. So we can have like a full loud crowd at the very beginning.
I want to talk to the public transit authorities about
that.
I
think exactly, that's why. Yeah.
And like getting in the stadium is often a mess over there, especially when it's busy.
Right.
Which I earlier this season I got a lot of I think we talked about it. I got a lot of flack because I like tweeted something about how there was no traffic going in. And so when at their last home game, they're all like, "How about now, Zach? Is there traffic now?" I'm like, "There's a lot of traffic. It took me a while to get in." So I imagine it's going to happen again. Connor wants me to get there early with him, so we could do the walk in that he did for the Giants. I know you guys are making fun of him for that. He keeps telling me we got to do it. I don't know if we'll see how much influence he has over me. I don't want to do it though. So, and I don't wear a suit like he does either. So,
oh man.
Yeah. And I don't think you guys will let me live that down if I do it either.
No, we definitely won't.
We will.
The point being, I would have to get there super early for that, which would mean I would skip traffic. So some value, but there's no value in me going on camera and having this material people could use against me. So
I don't know what would be worse, you doing it or succumbing to Connor's peer pressure. I think that might
that's
be
a great point. That would be a bad look for me. Yeah.
Yeah,
The more I talk about it,
exactly.
the more I can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you have our full support to say no. Full support.
Thank you.
just playing
That's
this
good.
clip.
All right, let's first let's talk about the Patriots offense against this Jets defense, because this Patriots offense, it hasn't been good. Obviously, they started the season with Mac Jones, who was a Pro Bowler last year, whatever that means for quarterbacks when they get to like the sixth option.
When like 9 of them are backing out. Yeah.
Yeah, but realistically, he had the best rookie season of all those quarterbacks, right? 92.5 rating. He was 223 yards per game, 22 touchdowns, 13 picks, better than all the 4 quarterbacks who went ahead of him in the draft. He also had a better team around him. That's pretty clear. He also had Josh McDaniels, and he doesn't anymore. I wonder what a factor that is. This year, 2 touchdowns, 6 picks. He's been under 200 yards. He's averaging under 200 yards. The rating 70.8. Obviously, he was injured for a little bit. Bailey Zappi replaced him. Last week, he was back. Bailey Zappi replaced him after 3 series. It's just been ugly. And Mac Jones will start, but we don't know. We don't know when or if Bailey Zappi may get some time in this game. But I want to go back to what I mentioned about Josh McDaniels, because obviously McDaniels is a guy who has been a very successful offensive coordinator. A lot of that was attributed to Tom Brady for a long time. But I think last year he kind of showed with a rookie quarterback how good he was as an offensive coordinator in the kind of season that Mac Jones put together. He's gone. They have 2 former head coaches, Matt Patricia and Judge, right?
Yeah. If you don't say the names, you could say they have 2 former head coaches running the offense.
Former defensive coordinator and former special teams guy, and they're kind of running the offense. And I feel like it's showing.
Yeah, and I think if you remember during the preseason, there was like rumblings about some unhappiness, I think from Mac Jones, about like the new coaching regime and their philosophies and stuff. Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, you can think whatever you want about them, but they had 0 experience coaching either quarterbacks or offense in their lives. I know Joe Judge was, I think, I covered the Giants before. Joe Judge was more heavily involved in their offense the last 2 years than I think a lot of people. Everybody always blamed Jason Garrett, which, he's a brutal offensive coordinator and boring and all that stuff. But I think Joe Judge, kind of like Saleh, like he still had a hand in like how they operated, what they did, how conservative they were all the time. Anyway, so you take away Josh McGinn, you bring these 2 guys in, which is interesting. It was if any other coach did that besides Bill Belichick, it would have been way more criticized than it was.
Oh yeah,
because you're risking hurting the development of young quarterback, which seems to be playing out that way. I'm not ready to give up on Mac Jones. I think, like you mentioned, you saw some interesting stuff from him last year. The supporting cast, I don't think, is particularly great for him right now. They have good running backs, but their receiving room is kind of weird. Their tight ends they paid a couple of tight ends, and neither of them have lived up to their contract. I think their O-line is okay. But yeah, so funnily enough, I saw a stat before we did the podcast, and I tweeted it about how I knew how bad Zach Wilson was graded as like under pressure. He's second worst on PFF, but Mac Jones is last. So you're seeing 2 quarterbacks that are going to have 2 defenses kind of throwing some exotic looks at them to try and confuse them. And it might work for both, and that might lead to a low-scoring game. I think that the Jets like their chances in low-scoring games these days, though. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, the Mac Jones thing is fascinating to me, especially with Bailey Zappi looming. They clearly like Zappi over there, and it seems to like he's taken to the Joe Judge and Matt Patricia coaching maybe more than Mac Jones is. I think Sunday you're really going to see what these 2 quarterbacks, Mac Jones and Zach Wilson, are made of, because they both have a lot to prove. Zach Wilson's been winning games, so maybe I don't know. He's dodged a lot of criticism probably because of that. Mac Jones, they're losing, and he was hurt and all that stuff. So it's going to be interesting. The 2 quarterbacks on 2 different teams going in 2 different directions from the same draft class. I think that's a fascinating like subplot of this game.
Yeah, I think so too. The over-under, by the way, 40.5, which I guess that seems about right, but it feels like this game is going to be a grinded out type game. The Patriots you mentioned the offensive line. It's pretty good. And the running attack has been pretty good the last couple of years. One of the reasons that Mac Jones was good as a rookie is the running attack was good. So the thing about this Jets defense is it's been great against kind of both at this point. It's been really good against the run and the pass. So we'll see how that goes. Let's flip it to the other side of the ball, because it seems it's hard to figure out what this Jets team is going to do, because the Patriots defense is good. Despite what happened a week ago, I think, or Monday night against Chicago, it's a good defense. But when you look at that Monday night game, they were gashed by the Bears, 243 yards on the ground for Chicago. And you know that that's what the Jets want to do. So it's all going to be like, right, what did the Patriots do to fix the mess that was Monday night at home against a bad Bears team before this game against the Jets team that we assume is going to be run heavy?
Yeah, it's a very interesting case study for them, and I'm sure, and they obviously were watching that game, and I think they can run things kind of like the Bears did. Honestly, I don't think the Bears have a great offensive line. They were able to overcome that. They had a lot. Justin Fields is a better athlete than Zach Wilson, but Zach Wilson is a good athlete. He can move. I wonder if they try to get some design runs in for Zach, which you haven't really seen much of this season. There hasn't been a lot of RPO type stuff. So I'm curious to see if they work that into the offense to get things going and maybe open things up down the field a little more, because they haven't really thrown the ball down the field at all. So yeah, it's there's something to be learned there about how to beat this Patriots defense. You just getting the ball out quick, running the ball a lot, getting the quarterback out in space. This offensive line is going to be it's going to be the fourth offensive line they've had this year. Cedric is going to be playing right tackle. Cedric CO. I'm trying to figure out a nickname for him.
I like CO.
CO. He's going to be the right tackle. John Benton, their offensive line coach, was saying that they like him. He's a really good athlete, which I think is why he was a first round pick a while back. But there also was a reason why he was on a practice squad and available as of a few weeks ago. So it's a balance. But I mean, I will say if they come out and the offensive line plays well or he plays well, John Benton is really earning his keep. He's had to deal with so much on that offensive line, and it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I guess tying it to offensive line, I got out of Saleh earlier, and it doesn't sound like George Fant's any very close to returning. So they're probably gonna have to play him a bunch unless they trade for somebody at the deadline, which I guess is possible. But like we've talked about, in order to get an offensive lineman that's actually good, other teams are probably trying to get him too. So it's going to take assets. I know fans are obsessed with Laramie Tunsil from Houston. I wouldn't hold your breath. He's a left tackle. It would take at least a second round pick, if not more. I just don't see the Jets doing something like that. But anyway, to get back to the Jets offense, yeah, a lot of it's going to be on the offensive line to hold up and run blocking at the very least. I mean, you don't want Zach Wilson getting hit and all that stuff. I think it's probably inevitable with Matthew Judon and what the Jets are dealing with on the O-line. But yeah, so I'm going to be curious to see how they come out. I imagine you're going to see some Mike LaFleur going into his bag of tricks, just like the Patriots are on the other side probably. And it's going to be an interesting challenge for Zach. This is going to be a real test to see if he can answer the challenge of what he's been hearing for the last week. I think you've seen the even 50-50 split from Jets fans of he hasn't had to do anything yet. Once he starts having to actually do anything, then we can judge him, or the other fans who've already given up. So I think this is a real chance for him to answer the call and show that he can put the offense on his back, even without Corey Davis, even without Elijah Vera Tucker, without Breece Hall, everything stacked against him. This is the game where you go out and show that you can be a gamer. And if he doesn't do that and they lose because of him, that's bad. If they win in spite of him again, the Jets will take it because that's 5 wins in a row.
Well, and the Patriots factor blows it up either way, right? It's Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
If he loses, it's against the Patriots, and if
Yeah,
he wins,
yeah.
it's against the Patriots. It's just it makes it better or it makes it worse. Matthew Judon, you mentioned 8.5 sacks, leading the NFL right now. He has looked great. You mentioned the tight ends the Patriots signed that have been disappointments. Judon, great free agent signing a year ago. He has lived up to the hype. For them. Back to Belichick real quick before we move on to the picks. You mentioned how any other coach would have been criticized for sending out the second-year quarterback with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. The other thing that's fascinating is how he's handled last Monday night, right after 3 series, pulling Mac Jones and putting in Bailey Zappi. And then after the game saying that was the plan all along, which I don't know, maybe it was, but it didn't feel like that, especially when at halftime he said he'd probably see both in the second half, and we didn't. And now we're back to Mac Jones. I don't know if it's like a panic thing. I don't know what's going on, but these decisions just don't feel like things Bill Belichick generally would have done. I mean, you have Tom Brady for 20 years, it helps, but like just uncertainty
Yeah, exactly.
that you
Yeah.
don't expect to feel from Bill Belichick. It seems like he's a little all over the place.
I mean, in the history of football, you see it more often in college football with teams trying like this quarterback by committee approach. It just does not work. And so it was crazy that he did that. I mean, if Mac Jones wasn't ready to play, then don't play him. I think they've used Mac Jones's health as an excuse. Like you don't do a quarterback for one half and then another quarterback for the other half. Like that's just never going to work. And their offense was all out of sorts. So I don't know. I think they probably want Mac Jones to be the guy. I think they'd like Bailey Zappi to show something so they can flip him for like a draft pick this offseason kind of thing, like you did with Jimmy G back in the day. But yeah, it's a very weird situation. If they lose to the Jets on Sunday, I almost wonder, like, do they start selling off? Like that? Can't imagine they're going to make the playoffs. What's the record? They're 3-4, right?
Yep. Yeah, they're 3-4,
Yeah,
and
so
it's funny because they were 1-3, and then they looked great 2 weeks in a row to get to 3-3, and it was kind of like, all right, here we go. This is what the Patriots do, right? They figure things out, and now they're rolling. But then, bam, Monday night at home, and it's a complete dud against the Bears.
Yeah, well, and the AFC East is one of the best divisions in the NFL. Them and the NFC East, which I don't think anybody would have predicted those two divisions being like the two best ones, because everybody's hyping up like the AFC West and all that stuff, and NFC North is usually the one that everybody like. The Seahawks are in first in that division, but yeah, the AFC East is kind of loaded if the Jets are legit, and the Dolphins have the talent to be very good. The Bills are going to run away with it probably, but weird stuff keeps happening, so who knows? So yeah, the Patriots, if they fall into a hole, like they're kind of toast. I mean, they're an extra wild card, but the AFC is also deeper than the NFC. So you wonder if they start trading off pieces on Monday. I mean, knowing the Patriots, they'll go on like a 7-game winning streak to end the season or something like that. But yeah, it's they're in a very interesting place. I don't really know what the future is for them. Like, who do they have that's like a guy like who's a star? I mean,
Right.
Matthew Judon's a great pass rusher. But like he's not like a guy you're building your team around. Like who do they have on their roster anymore? Because they've always gone with the philosophy of it doesn't matter who the players are, we just plug them in and we'll make it work. And it's slowly you're starting to see that maybe that doesn't work, especially if you don't have a quarterback that can like be a star or whatever. So they're at a very interesting crossroads, and maybe the Jets can dig a deeper grave for them, which I'm sure Jets fans would love.
Yeah, it's easier to do next man up when you have the greatest quarterback of all time pulling the trigger and bringing everybody along with him. And they always had the talent on the defense. And, they made all the big free agent signings last year, and it felt like, okay, the philosophy is to surround the cheap quarterback with spending elsewhere, but that doesn't seem to be working either. So yeah, we could be at the beginning of a different era in New England for the football team, and maybe a different era in New York for the Jets, the way it's feeling so far this season. Maybe this weekend is kind of a flip. Who knows? All right. With that, time for picks. We're going to welcome in Seamus Higgins joining us this week. Seamus, how's it going, man?
Good. Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, yes, we can hear you.
Yep.
We hear you good.
Before we get to the picks, always in the chat, and we're very excited to finally get him on. He is another loyal listener, so
welcome. And Seamus also, I will say, was early for the record.
Yes.
And so got to hear literally why we never start on time. So Seamus, it's fine, right? Like we got to get set, we got to get ready. It's not our fault.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I mean, for like work, I do like auditions and stuff like that. So every time like I film, I never start on time. I always gotta get like that period because you gotta like check the gate and stuff like that.
So you understand.
Like, I understand. Yeah.
I think by the end of the season and hopefully this playoff run, like all the guests we'll have on, like everyone in the chat will like give us a little sympathy now for starting 5 minutes late.
So see. Seamus, obviously, Michael Dunn just said Seamus, the anti-Connor in the chat. Obviously, you've been watching us and being in the chat. It's great to have people like you that are regulars here join us. But where does your Jets fandom stem from?
So I was never really into sports until like 8th grade. Like I was kind of like film, video game kind of kid, like that kind of thing. And then I think I got in through my dad. So he picked the Jets. Don't know why he picked the Jets. I mean, he is from Ireland, so I kind of always associate like, okay, maybe green Jets.
Yeah.
But I started watching football like in general, but like with the Jets when Mark Sanchez was the rookie QB. So I've been
good
on that
time.
since. And it was very interesting because everyone kept talking about same old Jets even at that time. But I was also kind of like, well, they're doing good. Like they're almost at the Super Bowl, not knowing why that kind of mentality stuck.
Yeah.
And then like I had like trying to learn the sport too. So it's kind of like watching the Jets, learning about the history, but also the sport at the same time was very tricky. Like,
They weren't showing you the best product.
yeah, like there was no tutorial. Like I remember like I had to ask friends like why are like the Browns called the Browns, but they have an orange helmet, like stuff like that. I don't go to the home games much. I only been to one home game at MetLife. I feel like it's just better to watch at home with the TV. But like and MetLife was okay. It kind of felt like a Costco stadium.
You don't have to
But-
defend MetLife, I don't think. I think that in general,
Oh, no.
people are in agreement
It's
that
rough,
they didn't
yeah.
do a great job with MetLife.
I think Zach's having some trouble hearing. Zach, if you want to hop out and hop back in, we could. Maybe that might
I think
help
I'm
you
good.
out. Okay.
There's been just a spots where it's been hopping out, but I'm good. Yeah.
Okay.
I heard us
Yeah.
talking trash about MetLife, so we're good.
Okay. You didn't miss
Um,
any picks. Don't worry.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So time to get on to the picks. These are presented by BetMGM. We appreciate that. That's what the lines are based on, is BetMGM's as well. And we will take a look at the standings first if you're watching on YouTube. If not, we will read them off to you. The listeners continue to lead the way, 12-9 and in front. Nice job by Johnny Counts last week, going 2-1 for the listeners. I was 2-1 last week, but that only gets me to 9-12 for the season. Zach 1-2, a little bit of a step back, 10-11 for the season, and Marissa 8-13 for the season, 1-2 also last week. So the leader goes first. That is you, Seamus. What do you got?
Ooh, so we've come a long way since going 0-3 with Connor.
We always do have to mention that the listeners are actually 12-6.
Yes.
Without Connor.
They don't count.
Without Connor.
Yep.
Yeah.
This week was interesting. I feel like there's a lot of games where there's no like. I feel like there's no easy favorite, but I'm gonna go with my favorite first. I got the Eagles over the Steelers. Eagles, like I've heard about the buzz about Eagles being very good this year, but I didn't like quite understand. Like I kind of understood, but it's always kind of like that same mindset of like if Jalen Hurts takes that next step, like that's gonna be really big, and they have. So, and the Steelers were fine. I mean, like Mike Tomlin was a great coach, but I just feel like the Eagles are just way too talented, and I think the 10-point favorite, which I think that's the line.
Yeah, 10.5.
Yeah.
10 and a
Yep.
half, yeah.
But yeah, I'll go with the Eagles.
It's a big sports weekend in Philadelphia. They're
Mhm.
they're
my God,
popping
yeah.
over there. So
Yep.
I like that. I like that one.
I got the Jetsies over the Patriots.
Mm.
I don't know how petty they're going to be. I like the Patriots. It's tricky because even on the Patriots like worst kind of seasons, they always play strong against the Jets.
Yeah.
But like looking at like the press conferences and the tweets, like I just get the sense that the Jets are just so frustrated, and if they want to run up the score, I don't know if they will. Like I think it kind of depends, as long as they don't do something where it backfires. But I got the Jets. I think it'll be kind of like I kind of get the sense that the Jets would the score. It will definitely be low scoring, but I get the sense it'd be more like the I say 10 points, but maybe no more than that, or like 7,
Okay.
3, but definitely like maybe it's like 3 or like it depends on Zach Wilson.
Wow.
But
Okay.
don't want to dig us in a ditch, so I'm gonna say Jets and just not mention the line.
Jets +3. Yeah.
Jets plus 3.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I guess I moved up.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I got the Jaguars over the Broncos across the
Mhm.
pond.
I had that one too.
Yeah, the Broncos, like I thought they were gonna be really good this season. I don't know what happened. Like it just like it's kind of like brave that Denver let Russell kind of be corny, but like also at the same time with Denver too, this pick I'm a little hesitant about because people make fun of like, and I don't mind the corniness, like what it's like whatever, but like they're still a very talented team. They can just
good defense.
yeah, good defense. They can easily just flip a switch and just go on a run if they could. But I like Trevor Lawrence. I think Travis Etienne's really good. I think they might find a way to overcome the Broncos, similar to the Jets. Like I think they might be able to move down the field a lot, and also history. Like they just do a really good job with the London games. Like
that's where they're gonna play eventually, right?
Yeah, maybe
that's
the
gonna be
London
their future
Jags.
home when Shad Khan moves them there.
I don't know the line for Jaguars, but I'm gonna go with Jaguars.
Yeah, Jags -2.5 versus the Broncos. I actually had that one too. So spoiler, I know I'm not next because I'm not. I'm in last place, but who's next? Zach.
Zach's next.
Yep.
I'm next. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do Jets because that 3-point line especially. But my prediction in my preview story tomorrow, I have the Jets winning by a touchdown, or 7 points. And I tend to do better when I pick the Jets on these things. So I'm gonna go Browns +3 because the Bengals don't have Jamar Chase. So I'm intrigued by that line. And I will go with, as you can see, I definitely put a lot of thought into this. Let's see. I will do the Titans -2.5. I think they're actually better than I thought. So, and the Texans are not very good. So yeah, I'll go Titans -2.5.
All right, I'm going to make it 3 for 3 so far with the Jets. I haven't picked the Jets game all season long. This is the first time I pick a Jets game, and I will take the Jets with the 3 points. The 1.5 I may not have, but the 3 just feels, I don't know. It's weird that it's going that direction. That scares me, but I'll take the Jets +3. I am going to go with the Vikings -3.5 versus Arizona. At home, the Vikings, I think, are good. And Arizona, I think from week to week, we don't know. And then finally, I think the Raiders have kind of figured things out. The only thing that concerns me about this game is the West Coast team traveling east for a 1:00 start. That's a bettor's folly, I guess, to go for that. But I'm going to do it anyway. Raiders -1 at New Orleans. And that brings us to Marissa. We know one of your picks.
Okay, yeah. So I had said Jags -2.5 versus plain workout Russell Wilson. And then I'm going to go Dolphins -3.5 at the Lions. The Lions coming off a bye week before that, got blown out by the Patriots, I believe. So I think, and the Dolphins are coming off a loss too. So I think the Dolphins will win that game. Will they cover? I don't know. Hopefully. And then my last pick, since they were only my only pick right last week, I know they're going west, but they're fun to root for. I know Jets fans might not want to hear that, but Giants +3 at Seattle. So bring on Daniel Jones.
Crazy that game is wild, right? Giants Seattle. It's just
because it's way better than anyone expected.
And the spread almost makes sense for like coming into the year, right? You would have thought the Giants would be terrible, the Seahawks would be kind of bad, and it'd be Seahawks by 3. But instead, it's like 2 first place or second place.
Geno Smith Renaissance.
Yeah.
The Geno Sons.
Yeah, Geno Sons.
All right, there you have it. We will see if the 3 hosts of this show can make up some ground on Seamus and the listeners who are just having a great year. You guys should collectively be actually putting money on this stuff. And we, split it up at the end of the year. But that's going to do it for us. Not quite going to do it for us. We've talked a lot about quarterbacks, but we forgot one, Zach.
Yeah, Chris Streveler. I don't know. Maybe the Jets should do a 2-quarterback offense and work him in the second half. That might help. I don't know.
Can you?
Or he'll be pumping up the crowd.
Yeah. Or you can at least be the crowd pumper upper.
I'd be happy if he was just active.
Just 1 week. Like, come on.
Just make him active. Give us the dream. Yes. All right. If you want to join The Athletic, you can do it for $1 a month for 6 months. Go to theathletic.com/can't wait for that. We'll be coming back at you early next week with a full recap of what could be a huge step along the way for this Jets as they return to contention in the AFC. Can they beat the Patriots at home? We'll have a full recap. Until then, thanks for listening to the Can't Wait podcast.